Welcome to episode 135. I'm your host, Gustavo Dantas. And if you are a hardcore listener who have listened to the previous 134 episodes, might be wondering what happened. You haven't released an episode in a while. Just way too many things happening. But this is the end of January 2023, and you're releasing the first one of the year. And I have Sam Crook. So Sam is a first degree black belt, four-time IBJJF black belt national champion, four-time British champion, and the Jiu-Jitsu head coach of the nonprofit organization Francis Ngannou Foundation in the village of Bati, Cameroon, Africa. His cousin encouraged Sam to start his jiu-jitsu journey to lose weight, and as a result, he began an impressive story that has led him around the world. Sam has trained from London to Rio, making stops at multiple places in between to capitalize on world-class training, all while competing as much as he could. Since 2019, Sam has been a volunteer instructor for the Francis Ngannou Foundation in the village of Bati, and the social project aims to utilize martial arts as a personal development tool, especially jiu-jitsu, and a way out poverty. So that's exactly what we do with Jiu-Jitsu Tribe. We're gonna have a little clip. If you haven't heard anything about it, we're gonna have right now, right before the interview, a little clip so you can learn a little bit of what we do, and you also can go to jujitsutribe.org to get involved, to see what it can do. I don't know when you're listening to this. This is at the end of 2000, as I mentioned, January 2023, when the process of revamping the website, going through a big rebranding process. Super excited. A lot of cool programs coming up. So make sure that you stay tuned. And if you have any questions or anything you want to donate, you have anything that you want to ask or help out with Jiu-Jitsu Tribe, you can send me an email at gustavo@jujitsutribe.org. And stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Us. Do you believe that if more people train Jiu-Jitsu, the world would be a better place? Most likely your answer is yes. However, millions of people don't have access to it because they are unaware of Jiu-Jitsu's existence, and most cannot afford it, especially in impoverished communities worldwide. That is when the 501c3 nonprofit organization Jiu-Jitsu Tribe comes in. Jiu-Jitsu Tribe's mission is to inspire, impact, and improve the lives of at-risk children and young adults in impoverished communities worldwide. We introduce Jiu-Jitsu as a personal development tool for kids and young adults in partnership with mental health-related organizations like behavior centers and local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies. We also support social projects that offer free Jiu-Jitsu classes to their communities. We do so by providing facility improvements with construction, new equipment like new mats and uniforms, and most importantly, guaranteeing the sustainability of the programs by offering a monthly salary to the leader. If you agree the world would be a better place if more people train Jiu-Jitsu, please visit jujitsutribe.org and get involved today. Os. Welcome to the podcast, Sam and Frank. I'm glad to have you guys here. How are you doing?
Thank you, man. Yeah, thanks for having us. Doing good. I'm doing good. You good, man?
Yeah, good. Just cold.
Cold. Not used to the cold weather in the UK.
So how long you guys been in UK now?
We've been here for about a month already, and we've got about 3 weeks left before heading back to Cameroon.
3 more weeks?
Yeah.
Nice. How's the experience, Frank? Can he describe a little bit of the experience so far?
Yeah, I can try. C'est comment pour toi jusqu'à maintenant? C'est jour comment?
Bien, vraiment bien. Parce qu'au Cameroun, c'est pas comme ça. Il y a beaucoup de différences.
So it's not like this in Cameroon. It's like, it's good. He's having a good time. It's not like what he's used to. There's a lot of differences between here and there. Such as? Comme quoi?
People, countryside, food, gym.
Basically everything's different from Cameroon, you know, like it's his first time leaving Cameroon, so first time flying out of the country, first time getting on a plane. You know, here like the climate is different. It's much colder. We don't have like any cold, really cold weather in Cameroon at all. It gets like chilly, but not really cold, not like frost and stuff like that. So the people are different here as well. Like they already explained to me, it was like the people here are so kind and helpful, and I try to look to like help other people, you know, whereas it's not really like that in Cameroon. Everyone's out for themselves and kind of doesn't want to see anyone else doing well, which is like a bit of a weird culture thing, but it's like people are very jealous there of other people's success. So here, for example, let's say you were doing like a fundraising thing for like a student to travel, like you have a jiu-jitsu gym and you want to raise money for one of the kids to go to kids Panams or something like that. You can put something like publicly for people to donate money on the reception or something like that. You can put like a poster. In Cameroon, it's not like that. You have to hide everything. Because wow. If people know that somebody is going to travel, they can try to, you know, injure them or whatever, or make it so that they're not able to travel because they're jealous. Basically, they're jealous. No one wants to see someone else succeed for some reason. It's a really strange mentality, but unfortunately, that's the way it is in the village.
Wow. So let me tell you this, Sam. Let's start first just going back how jiu-jitsu show up in your life, and then we roll into the opportunity to do that social work and go to Africa and help to develop the program. So yeah, let's just start with that, with how jiu-jitsu show up in your life.
Okay, so I started training back in 2009. Before that, I was never into sport as a kid. I was like a nerdy kid growing up. I liked drawing, painting, reading horror stories, watching a horror film. You know, like I was, like not into sports at all, basically. And then when I was a teenager, like 17, 18, 19, I was a bit, let's say, lost, like didn't know where I wanted to go with life or anything like that. Was smoking and drinking too much, all of the things you shouldn't be doing, basically. And then when I was 21, my cousin, who I was always like very close friends with my whole life, he's like a best friend growing up, he persuaded me to start. He just started Thai boxing at a local gym and persuaded me to come along. He was like, "Oh, I've just started this thing, like Thai boxing, it's really cool. Come along and try it out." So I went along with him. I was still smoking like cigarettes at the time. So I remember, you know, being totally out of shape. I couldn't even do a single push-up that time. Really, I was like, I couldn't even push my own body weight. And I went with him to this first Thai boxing class, enjoyed it, went back a few times, and then he decided to start doing a jiu-jitsu class as well. He started Thai boxing in another gym. I was like, oh, they've got jiu-jitsu classes here as well. Why don't we try that? I was like, okay, you know, I'll give it a try, why not? So I started getting like, it was kind of like such a radical lifestyle change for me that, you know, coming from being totally out of shape and not doing any sport to then I just found it interesting, like, you know, trying to learn to get in shape, but from learning skills, you know, learning like technique and skill. So it was kind of like different from, let's say, sport in school that I'd grown up with that I didn't like. So it's much more technical, and you kind of get immersed in the technique side of things. You know, even with Thai boxing, if you want to, with any martial art, you can choose to be very, you know, you get guys that are very technical minded, and they're really focused on trying to understand how everything works, which was kind of what appealed to me in the beginning. I was like, find it very interesting. It's something new for me that I'd never been exposed to before. So I got like hooked pretty quickly on martial arts in general. In the beginning, I wasn't like 100% focused on jiu-jitsu more than anything else. I was doing a bit of Thai boxing, a bit of jiu-jitsu, a bit of boxing, a bit of taekwondo, whatever, you know, whatever. I was going with him and doing as many classes of whatever I could for a little bit. And then I think it was after a couple of months that I started to, you know, do more jiu-jitsu classes. Basically, just found myself coming to more jiu-jitsu classes and less of everything else. And then I remember they persuaded me to try to compete at one point when I was a white belt. And it didn't go well. I got submitted in about 30 seconds. I think I got guillotined. I don't remember. It's like a traumatic experience that I like blanked out of my brain. I'm never competing again. Basically, because I'd never had any joining like in martial arts clubs when I started at that point. I'd never had any idea or dream of competing or doing anything like that. I was just kind of doing it to have live a different lifestyle, you know. And they were like, "Yeah, you should compete." I was like, "What do you mean compete? Like, I'm not a professional sports person. What are you talking about?" They were like, "No, you compete. They have white belt division. You know, you have weight and age and whatever." I was like, I'm not sure about that. You know, I've never been good at sports. I don't think I'll be good like competing. Like, and then yeah, I wasn't initially. I wasn't, and then I didn't compete again until maybe like 2 years later. When I started, I was a blue belt, and I started getting a bit more, you know, confident in my skills and like improving a lot, and like noticing that I actually learned something, that maybe I could do something. But yeah, it still didn't go very well at blue belt, to be honest. I lost like the majority of competitions I entered, like quite convincingly. I remember, if I remember rightly. And it wasn't until maybe like 5 years into jiu-jitsu that I started doing well. So it was when I was a purple belt, after like a year of being a purple belt, that I started to have some success.
Yeah, I have my issues with competing in the beginning too. So I relate.
Yeah. So Frank did much better than me. He did his first competition this past Sunday and managed to win gold, win the absolute, and a belt and some prize money. So
Nice. Here we
learning from
go.
my experience. I'm trying to like basically take all my I say past mistakes with jiu-jitsu and whatever, and pass it on to my students so they don't have to make the same mistakes. You know, like I try to tell this to them, like, look, guys, listen to me. Like, I made all these mistakes. You don't need to go through the same thing that I did, because I'm here to tell you that it's not good to do like that. Whatever, I've already done it. So speaking from experience, you know.
Yeah, and an interesting thing too is I like to share with listeners too. We have listeners from everywhere. We have beginners, have people with experience, but especially the beginners. Man, how many probably you've seen in UK, how many people that maybe had a few experiences like you did and say like, dude, I'm out. This is not for me. I'm tired of losing. And that is the moment, it's a defining moment for whoever practiced jiu-jitsu. I'm not saying that being a professional competitor, but just learning how to deal. And that's incredible lessons that jiu-jitsu teach, but especially coming from the competitive aspect, is that how do you handle the loss? How you put all the expectation, I'm going to compete, I'm going to do great, and then you train and it doesn't happen. And then you go to another tournament and then you lose it again and again and again. It took me 6 tournaments to win 1 match. And so for me, it was at one point, I wasn't trying to win the tournament. I was trying to win a match. I was like, dude, I just want to win 1 match. So I can tell people that I won a match. So it took me a long time to even just win a small tournament. It just happened the places that I was training. He wasn't focused into that. But I think the most important is at that point, for the practitioner, is the mindset of not accepting that if it's something that you want to do it. And those lessons for the kids then, I started jiu-jitsu when I was 14 to 15, and I started competing, I think maybe I started at 17. And that's one of the biggest lessons that the competitive aspect of jiu-jitsu taught me, that you will not get everything that you want at the time that you want, at the way you want. Other people have goals and dreams as well. You need to respect their process and yours. And that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. I have my spiel that I say that you don't have to train, you don't have to compete in jiu-jitsu to get all the benefits of jiu-jitsu. You don't have to compete. All the benefits you get from training, absolutely. However, if you want to amplify the power of this tool, jiu-jitsu, competition is a great way to do so, because everything that's happening in a tournament, let's say someone's in your side mount. Yeah, it sucks when someone's in your side mount when you're training or in your back. But like when you're in the competition and someone's on your back and you're like, oh crap, someone's on my back. Oh my God. Everything is amplified. Maybe you're going to have a little butterfly. You're going to train someone different. When you go to turn, this butterfly gets amplified. So learning how to manage your emotions in tournaments, it's definitely a level up. Like I said, you don't need, if you think about it, Sam, if you look into all your journey, right? Imagine like all these years you never competed, but you have been training jiu-jitsu, for sure you'd be in better shape. You'd be a confident person. Oh, that, right? But your journey to be so much different. You know what I mean? If you didn't have, you know, so the person that you became because of the competition, I mean, that experience is priceless. You cannot even compare who you are now if you didn't have competition, and if you did, how many lessons you had, how much you get to learn about yourself when you're competing. And this is exactly you sharing that experience with them, with your students, because they will get, especially, you know, Frank getting used to competing right now. This is going to be incredible for his development, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is like what you were saying, like the difference between someone who competed and someone who never competed. It's like basically, I think that's what changed everything for me. Was I got exposed to competition through jiu-jitsu. You know, I wasn't like a competitive person in other things, right? It's jiu-jitsu that showed me that competition is something that I could do, right? So from already falling in love with jiu-jitsu, and like competition is a part of the jiu-jitsu scene. So when I first went to a competition, it wasn't with the idea of, you know, winning, necessarily being champion. It was just to go and see how I can do. You know, if I can, how is my level compared to other people? Just as a kind of a tool, like an assessment tool, basically, to see how I'm doing. Am I doing okay compared to the other people of this level? You know, I don't know. So, but then what really got me addicted and got me to take jiu-jitsu seriously was when I went to a few competitions like this, and I didn't like the feeling that I had of being out of control, right? It's because in the gym, you focus on what you're doing, you learn your technique, and you study your game and try to make it work on different training partners. But for me, competition was so stressful. It was so stressful, and I felt like I couldn't do the same jiu-jitsu in the competition. I was completely like unable to stay calm, like, or stay clear in my mind. I'm not calm as such, but I felt very like stressed and overwhelmed by the competition, and found it very hard to problem solve the same way that I would do in the gym, let's say. So I was like, man, I don't like this feeling. Like I feel like everything that I do in training, I have no idea how to make that work in the competition, because I'm so stressed that it's like a completely different environment, a completely different situation. It didn't feel like it was like the same thing that I was doing. I was like, how is this possible? I need to do it more so that I can do what I do in the gym in a competition. I want to try to get comfortable under pressure, try to get comfortable being uncomfortable, you know, and try to learn how to stay calm under pressure, learn how to think and process stuff in a high pressure environment, you know. So I think that helped me a lot. That was what was appealing, even though I didn't like it. I didn't want to just accept that it was going to be like that forever. I was like, no, I'm sure I can work on this, you know. It's something that can change with time. I was like not a natural competitor at all. I was like, it was such a hard beginning for me. Like the same, like sounds like what you were saying as well. Like you lost a bunch of matches in the beginning. You know, I think you get a lot of like athletic guys that do well right from the beginning, but I think there's also another group that which maybe don't come from an athletic background and have like a different approach to just maybe have a slower start, you know, in the competition. And then it's something they need to work on over time. But you can still get good results. You can still achieve like the highest level, I think, with either approach, you know. It just depends on the person, and you need to understand that it's not going to be the same journey for everyone. Not everyone is going to have immediate success, and if you don't have immediate success, that doesn't mean that you're not cut out for it. You know, you can still work on it, and you can learn the skills that you need to be able to handle those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that, I mean, that's basically the podcast, the idea of the BJJ mental coach, I started in 2010. Now, this podcast, I interview entrepreneurs, high performers. I try to get some of the nonprofits, a little bit of everything. But one of the things I'm gonna, maybe you'll have some new listeners. I haven't been putting, we have 130 something episodes, but I haven't put, I did some podcasts in Portuguese too, so I haven't done episodes in a while. So I may have some new listeners. I know that I'll have some of the hardcore listeners that have listened to all 130 something episodes. And my question is for you that is listening at home, basically what Sam just said, have you ever been in a tournament that you went with full intentions of being your best self, to train, to transfer all the hard work from the academy? And when you got there, for whatever reason, you just felt like, that wasn't me. I did not roll like I rolled at the academy. What is the problem? You know, what is going on? So basically, something was holding you back. Whatever that is, it's your job, it's your duty to find the source of this issue and deal with it, so you can keep every time getting a little better. And these are skills that, this is not about jiu-jitsu per se competition, it's about life. How many people that maybe they go to a job interview and they want that job so bad, they get nervous, they start stuttering, next thing they couldn't even be their own selves in an interview and didn't get a job. Or maybe someone goes to a important test in school. In Brazil, have a lot of that for college people trying to go to college, and there's this one big test a year that's your shot to get into a public education, and then they feel like, man, I have to do well. They focus so much on the outcome that they forget about being present and actually focus on what they need to do, and their nerves get the best of them, and they end up getting frustrated, not getting the results. And jiu-jitsu is the same way. So just giving a little plug too for anyone that wants to dive in deeper, why maybe you're not being your best self on, maybe off the mat as well, but especially talking on the mat. If you go to bjjmentalcoach.com, not the podcast, we have a few different courses that I created, and all of the money raised from that, from some of the, I have 2 courses, got a book, there's a bundle of different things. All the money raised goes to the nonprofit Jiu-Jitsu tribe. So basically we help projects throughout the world. And the idea of exposing people just to kind of just think a little bit more about that personal development aspect when you go competing. When I was younger, to be honest, I was a teenager, and I'm like early 90s, I'm just way too focused on results, outcome. I have to win. I didn't know how I was trying to win to feel good about myself. I was fighting for my self-esteem instead of fighting to challenge myself and develop my skills and improve. I was too worried about what others going to think if I don't win, if I don't meet the expectations that others have of me. So if you're listening to this right now and you feel that you struggle a little bit with the mental aspect, there's nothing wrong with you. Welcome to the welcome to the club, but it's your responsibility to realize why I'm not rolling the way I do at the school. And it's a process. Some people can deal. The reality is, anxiety, everyone has, people have different levels, how they're going to deal some of the situations. So my question to Frank is, how did he feel competing? How did he feel emotionally? Did you talk with him about that?
Yeah. So I can ask him again just to see if he says anything different. But I know we already talked about this the other day after the competition. So Frank, Sandy, comment avant ou pendant la compétition?
Stressé. Vraiment, j'avais un peu peur. J'étais stressé parce que c'était ma première compétition. Je ne savais pas comment ça se passe. Je ne savais pas comment ça allait se passer. Mais j'étais là, tu me disais toujours, ça va aller. Et stressé. J'étais beaucoup stressé.
Basically, like very stressful, and he was a bit afraid before the competition as well. He said, but like I was there telling him, like, don't worry, it'll be okay. Like it's going to be good. Like win or lose, I know how good he is, and even if he's even not good at jiu-jitsu, we're still together. At the end of the day, it doesn't change anything in terms of the people, like people close to you. You're still going to have the people who are still going to have your back. The people that have your back are still going to have your back, win or lose. So it's not going to change anything. You sometimes people are afraid, like maybe like they'll look bad in the competition, or it's like will reveal that they're not as good as others think they are, and then they'll lose friends or lose support basically because, oh, the guy's not he's not as good as I thought. Maybe he's not worth helping, you know, or not worth, you know, like supporting this guy because it's you know, he can't get the results we thought he could. You know, so this is like the thought process that people have a lot of the time. They think like, oh, I'll lose all the people that are supporting me if I don't get the results that they think I'm going to get, in terms of like sponsors and stuff like that as well. So I had the same thought for like many years, like coming like as a purple and brown belt. When I started to have success in competition, I was like very afraid that like I would like underperform, and that sponsors like that were helping me or people that were supporting me to do the competition, that they wouldn't be interested in me anymore. You know, they wouldn't support me anymore. I was like, shit, if I don't get the results, that people are going to drop me basically. So yeah, it was a very stressful situation for him. I'll explain a bit how he was saying the other day. He was like, he was saying to me the other day that he felt like he was representing everyone back home in Cameroon, not just representing the country, but representing his teammates, right? Because he's the first student. He's my first student that has managed to come out of Cameroon to compete. There's no jiu-jitsu scene in Cameroon. There's no jiu-jitsu competition. So he's the first one. I've been training them for 3.5 years now from scratch. So we've got a good little small team of kids and juveniles. And he's the first one that's had the opportunity to compete. So he knows, like, because we've talked about it before as well, like, look, he has to be serious when we travel and compete. You need to put the effort in and don't take the opportunity lightly, you know, because it is a bit of a different situation from normal. Like most other jiu-jitsu competitors that are like starting out in clubs in the US or Europe, they put pressure on themselves, but it's unnecessary because they can compete like the next weekend or the next month. You know, they can always come back and try again. It's just a learning experience, right? But for him and the other kids there, it's not the same situation because it took us so long to be able to get the visa, passport, travel documents, everything like this for one person, and to get the finances to bring him here. And it's not easy to do that again, you know, like, so he knows that if he doesn't do a good job, it's going to be really hard to do that a second time, to drum up support for the other guys. You know, if he doesn't perform, rightly or wrongly, it's going to be hard for us to get support for the other students, you know, or for him to come back. If I'm saying like, oh, look, I've been teaching at the social project for the last 3.5 years. My kids are really doing well. I believe that they can compete at a high level, trying to get sponsorship for them to help with competing. And then we come over and we don't perform, right? Then how am I going to say like, that was my best student, can we try my second best now? Like the best one didn't do well, let's try the second best. Nobody's going to be interested, you know. Unfortunately, that's the way it is, because in professional sports, or you know, it's not always professional jiu-jitsu, but if you're doing sport to make a living, you need to be performing well, getting results, but also entertaining to watch. It is like, otherwise no one will be interested to watch you. No one will be interested to give you financial support, right? And he knows that coming in, which is a lot of pressure for a first ever competition, you know. Not just that his teammates are relying on him and counting on him to basically show the work that we've been putting in, but also his family are counting on him as the only person in his family that's has the opportunity to do something outside of Cameroon, basically, that has the opportunity to travel internationally and has the hope of getting him a better life.
Yeah, this is yeah, it's an incredible experience for him. I relate to my very first international trip from Brazil to, I came to the US just to compete, to stay 10 days and go back. Yeah, and I did have sponsors, supporters, and I did feel a little bit of that weight. End up working well and end up winning my division, everything. But I know what you mean of like, oh man, what if? And that is so important to learn how to manage your emotions with that and question those thoughts as they coming in of like something like that, like what if I don't win, but like what, and what if you win, you know? And as you already mentioned, people who love you and care about you, they will support you no matter what. If you winning or losing, the people that really care about you, they will be there with you. And one of the things that I try to share with people is that you're not what you do, you're not what you have, and you're not what others think of you. So if you can detach from that and just focus on the execution of the moves basically of your game and try it, because at the end of the day, when you look into it, if you try to be super rational about it, a tournament is a paid open mat. Okay, you just going in, you're gonna roll some different people that you've never seen, and at the end there's a prize, you know, there's an award. But when you look at it, I try to share, even I start to use this mentality too, that I'm going into a tournament, it doesn't matter if it's big or small. At the end of the day, it's just mats. It doesn't matter if there's 5 people watching, 5,000 people watching. None of that should interfere in the execution of the moves. So if you can just stay connected to, okay, what I'm doing right now, what the coach is saying, referee, that's it. And you just focus on the execution. You have, nothing is guaranteed that you're going to win. But what I wish to everyone's going to compete, if I was, let's say I was going to talk with Frank before we compete, I'm going to tell him, I wish you double gold. So, but my double gold is not the which he actually won his weight in the open. But my double gold concept is different.
We didn't win the weight class. We're going to this after, but we lost. Me and him both lost the final of our weight class, and then we won the open class. So,
oh, nice.
So we got 1 gold.
But the double gold that I say is the number one. The number one gold is internal peace. For you to just go home and be like, wow, it felt like I was training, and I'm satisfied and with my performance. That should be your first goal, just to be at peace of like, man, I'm not talking about results, winning or losing. And then the second goal, the goal itself of winning a division or winning something. So if you can really focus on this part of like being your best self, there will be a better chance of getting the outcomes that you want. Nothing is guaranteed, but if you can be the same person you are in the academy, yeah, maybe you have better chance when you perform. And I understand it's, especially in the beginning, you don't have a lot of experience, and then you get a little anxious. But more you practice competing and just focusing on try to do the moves, that's it. One thing, I was interviewing Bernardo Faria. He's a 4-time world champion, for people who don't know. And he said in Portuguese sounded better than in English, but I'm going to try to translate the best way possible. He said, like, I don't try to win the match. I try to win the positions. If I win the positions, if I conquer the positions, I have a better chance of winning the match. You know what I mean? He's thinking, okay, I pull guard. I said, I have one thing to focus. Either I'm going to try to sweep this guy or submit him. There's only 2 things to do. I'm going to, defend my guard or whatever. Let's say I do sweep and now I'm on top. Now you have a different mini goal per se. Now, either you're going to, maybe you can go to a full lock or whatever, some flying submissions or whatever. But for the most part, you're going to try to pass the guard. So I say, like, now my focus is not that. I'm not thinking if I'm going to win, who's watching or whatever. It's just the execution of the move. You have a problem. Jiu-Jitsu is about problem solving. So you're there to try to solve that problem. This guy's playing a specific system. I need to deal with a specific system. If I do pass the guard, I'm going to side him out. Great. Different problem. How I'm going to progress my position. Am I going to try submission from here? I'm going to go to the mount. It's like breaking down the matches in different phases. So it helps you to be more focused, more present, and not thinking about the distractions of everything that are around, the supporters and people that think you should be doing this, should be doing that. So getting them to keep practicing that mentality, at least for me, and not making it special. Is just like, it's not, oh, this is a small tournament, I'm going to try super hard, or, oh, I'm going to a big tournament now, this one I'm going to really try hard. When you compete, you're going to try to do your best no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's small or big tournament, you're going to try to perform and be your best. So more experience. So this is an incredible experience for him, and more he has a chance, and more he can detach from the outcome. To be honest, he's going to feel more, let's say, free on the mat. And that's the best feedback that I can get from my students. I always say, like, if you come to me on Monday, regardless if you won or lost, you say, like, wow, if it was me on a mat, maybe I made a mistake, a technical mistake, and boom, he got my arm, but I felt great. I just made a technical mistake. Technical mistakes are easy to fix. The mental emotional aspect, that's more work. Like I said, some people handle better than others, but man, just looking back, and then his next experience, it's going to be already so much better. And what he cannot do, be like, oh, now I need to keep up. No. All you need to do is, like, just do what you do, execution of your homework. That's all.
Let me translate a little bit the last thing you said. Que la prochaine fois que tu fais la compétition, que tu n'as pas avoir peur que, oh, la dernière fois j'ai gagné, maintenant tout le monde pense que je vais gagner, que tu vas mettre encore plus de pression sur toi. Que comme tu as gagné la première compétition, maintenant les gens s'attendent que tu gagnes encore. Hein? Et ça, tu mets la pression sur toi. Non, c'est seulement la même chose. C'est 1000 compétitions que tu vas faire. Pas que parfois tu peux perdre. Hein? Mais tu n'as pas à mettre la pression. I'm saying basically what you said, like, not add extra pressure on yourself because of like past results. Like, oh, I won last time, so now everyone expect me to win this time. Maybe last time, so now I can't lose, because how am I going to tell everyone I lose? They'll be like, why did you lose this time?
Yeah.
But there's one thing to say is, like, this is like at least for me, it's something that's like needs constant work. Even as a black belt, it's not something you fix it when you're like a blue belt and then you're good to go. One thing which does help is being like consistency in competing. If you compete regularly, it's much easier, because it's like an environment that you're used to. You feel comfortable on the mats, you feel comfortable in front of the crowd, you feel comfortable with the procedure, with losing and winning. You're used to losing and winning, so it's no like big deal. But let's say if you win and then you don't compete for a while again, you try to compete again, it's like you have like less chance. It's a one chance that you have to get the results. And if you're competing all the time, you know that you can always do it again next or the week after. So it reduces the pressure, I feel, when you compete regularly. You don't feel like, let's say you just do Worlds and the Euros, like 2 big competitions a year. At least for me, I would feel much more pressure to get results there, because I know it's the only chance that I've got to do something. And then it's the only times I'm competing. So when I started competing, it was basically, I decided, like, I need to compete more often. I need to get used to this feeling, right? To learn how to manage it. And I did. It took a long time, maybe 2 years of competing solidly, 2 or 3 years, until I started getting comfortable and started getting good results. So I was competing from like about 2012 till 2015 before I started getting good, right? Or 2014, 15 before I started really getting good results. But then after, at that point, I thought, like, okay, I'm used to it now. I've kind of cracked it. I know how to manage my mindset. I know what, I know what kind of thoughts have a negative impact on my performance. Like, because sometimes when you compete many times, you learn, you kind of see patterns in your performance and your mindset going into the competition, right? You learn, like, oh, all of these times I was going in with this, okay, I'm going to try to submit everybody, for example, or I don't want to get any points scored on me, or I'm going to smash everyone and like have a dominant performance. And other times you're like, I don't care, I'm going to just have fun. I want to just have, even win or lose, I want to show like my jiu-jitsu. I want to show what I can do, even if I don't get a result I want someone watching my match to be impressed with my jiu-jitsu, right? So I want it to be entertaining for people to watch. So I kind of like, you match up like the mindset you have going in with the results that it gets you, and also the feeling of satisfaction after, right? This is another thing. Sometimes you can have the mindset, you know that it gets you a certain, or most of the time will get you a certain result, but you might not be happy with that result afterwards. So even
Absolutely.
the competition, you're very like a very close game, trying to just win, and you win, like I get the gold, but maybe I've won like a couple of fights very close, like advantage or referee decision or something like that, and I get the gold, but it's not satisfying at all for me, because maybe during those fights that I won, I felt that the guy was, I felt like I could have done a lot more with him, but because I was so not afraid necessarily, but sometimes afraid, but so unwilling to open up because I cared so much about the result.
Yep.
Then in the end, the gold medal showed me what, that I can storm my way to a gold to being the champion. You know, I can. That for me, that's not what I'm doing jiu-jitsu for. You know, I've done that in the past with certain competitions, and I've never been satisfied with the result afterwards. Not, you know, I didn't feel good after coming away with a gold medal and I hadn't shown anything. You know, even let's say like one example is when the first time I won the British national, the IBJJF British national at black belt, just before I moved out to Cameroon. It was like, this was like summer 2019. I think I had 3 fights, and I had a really good semi-final against a guy that had beaten me before. I managed to take his back and submit him, so I was super pleased with that. But then going into the final, I saw, now that I beat the guy that I wanted to beat, all I cared about then was, okay, now just get the gold medal. It was in my head, now just what it takes to finish the tournament and get the gold, so that I can say I'm British champion, whatever, again, you know, whatever. In the final, I won the guy, and it was an easy fight. Like I didn't do anything, you know, like the guy, I think I swept him or something, you know, it was like not very many points on the board. It was like either I swept or I passed or something. And he was like easy to, or relatively easy to control. You know, I didn't feel like I was like exerting too much energy to stay in the position. But I never tried to get out of that position. I never tried to progress the fight. I was like, okay, I'm happy to just stay here and coast, get my victory. But then after, I didn't feel good about the having the medal. You know, I was like,
no internal peace, right?
yeah, I don't feel, there's no gratification in just winning like an empty medal. You know, I'd prefer like have a crazy tough fight, even if it is close, and I managed to show that I'm very good in like a number of positions. It's not even to show other people, it's to show myself, because it's not being broadcast in many of these competitions, right? It's not like the videos are online or anything like that. It's, you go, many times that I've competed, I don't have anyone watching me that I know. You know, a lot of the times when I was coming up, I come from a small gym which there was no other competitors there, so I would go to competitions on my own with no coach, no teammates. So I was kind of I'm not trying to impress anyone else. I don't care about impressing people that I don't know, you know, in the crowd, like who are there not even to watch me. They're not even watching my match probably. You know, they're watching their teammates or whatever. Or probably they want the other guy to beat me, you know. They're there to watch the guy that I'm fighting, maybe. So it's not a case of like trying to perform for people. It's like trying to, going back to the original thing that drew me in, is trying to be calm under pressure and do what I like to do in the gym on people that are trying to resist, basically on people that are trying to kill me. You know, you want to perform well with everything that you have been studying all this time on people that are doing everything they can to stop you.
Yeah. And that's interesting. And that's exactly what you said. That's why I talk about the first gold being that, you know, being at peace, because it's sometimes it's not even fair to, how can I say, analyze, reevaluate your performance based only on outcome. Just because of that, you can have an incredible match, but the guy had an incredible match too. And maybe he won by advantage, or maybe again, everything was going perfect and you made just a a technical mistake. And you can have the matches that, you know, how many times maybe like, yeah, it was, I won, but as you just mentioned, but I'm not happy with the performance whatsoever. So you won, but like feeling anxious, not letting go, fear of making mistakes, all that stuff that, by the way, people are listening, I have on YouTube, and it's on a website too, the top 10 mental mistakes jiu-jitsu competitors make and how to avoid them. And it's available for free. And I created that all based on all the mental mistakes I made. In Portuguese, I developed one that is a top 30 after all many interviews and stuff like that. The mental battle, it's nonstop. You know, it's during the preparation, the day before, about to get in the mat, during the match, after the match. You know, the mental battle is there the whole time. And just you being able to go through these experiences and share this with them, they will have to make every experience is unique, period. You know, there's one day for whatever reason you're just feeling off and you don't even understand why you're off. You're at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, I never got going. And sometimes you don't even can explain. So I think you sharing all the experience competing with them, of course, there's so much that they will be able to absorb, and some is just like they're gonna have to live it, period. You know what I mean? So let's talk about the social project. How did the opportunity for you to go to Cameroon came about? So tell us more about it.
Yeah, basically, so when I was competing a lot in jiu-jitsu as a purple and brown belt, I had the aim of being like a professional competitor, right? I wanted to be like a world-class competitor, try to make a living off competing in jiu-jitsu, whatever, and try to pursue that as far as I could. But then so I went to Brazil. I was in the US. I was training down in Brazil, Jack Mat Rio with Ricardo Vieira. And then I went to the US, trained with the Mendes brothers for a few months. But then shortly after this trip, when I was like, let's say at the deepest into competing and dedicating my life to competing, then I needed knee surgery. I had a torn, like a really bad meniscus tear that was locking my knee, and I had to have it removed. And at that point, I decided like maybe I should have like a second option, you know, like I can't put all of my eggs in one basket and just be let's say relying on results to manage my career, you know, like, because all it takes is something to go wrong with like injury or something like that, and then you're going to be struggling to make a living, struggling to feed yourself, you know what I mean? So you can do that, but it's very important, I think, in jiu-jitsu to have other avenues that you're involved in, let's say, like not just a competitor. You know, you have to know how to teach for a start. Like if you want to make a living in jiu-jitsu, and you don't want to leave it just down to luck, because even the best competitors, you know, they can always get injured or get sidelined for a while. And if you don't have another way to take care of yourself, to make money, even if it's not a lot of money, you need at least some skills that are going to get you by in the times that you're injured and things like that. So anyway, so at that point, I decided to go and study in university, study physiotherapy. So I moved up to London, started a physiotherapy degree. This is in 2016. I was a brown belt at the time under Darren Yeoman, who I'd always trained with down in my hometown in Torquay. I started with him from white to a brown belt. I moved to London to do physiotherapy. And then when I moved away, I had to find a new gym to train at. So I started training at Fight Zone London with Marco Cagna. So when I was training, when I was studying in London, I tried, after all the experience that I had as a jiu-jitsu competitor, as someone that was never competitive and never trying to be the best at anything, now jiu-jitsu kind of gave me that mindset to try to be the best, or jiu-jitsu kind of like, let's say, nurtured that mindset, like, okay, maybe I can push myself, you know, I can really push myself and learn something, which I can learn skills which I didn't think I could learn. So I carried that same mindset into university, and I was like, at 28 years old at the time when I went to university, and I was like, I'm gonna try to be like, you know, the best guy here, like try to like smash all of the exams and just like get as like higher results as possible. Basically, I treated it like a competition, like a jiu-jitsu competition in my mind. Like I need to learn everything and be better than everyone else, just to prove to myself that I can do it. But by the end, because I focused so much on performing so well, by the end of the degree, I was completely burnt out. You know, I was so burnt out, like with the whole thing. I put so much work in that I didn't even want to do it anymore. You know, I was not even, by the time the 3 years degree was over, I was like, I'm done. I do not want to work in this job. You know, I was just thinking like, I need to, in a way, it was good because it showed me like that it wasn't for me. You know, that I was doing jiu-jitsu, I was training every day the whole way through the degree, but I was not focused on that as a career, let's say. I was training jiu-jitsu and competing, and then I was studying physiotherapy and trying to be the best physio, trying to get like a good physio career going, right? Trying to start a good career. But like I said, at the end of it, I was completely burnt out and I'd like lost interest in it completely. And I wanted to go back to jiu-jitsu. I was like, man, I need to finish this degree and then try to find how I can make a career in jiu-jitsu, you know, because I want to finish the degree. I want the paper to show why I've suffered for 3 years, basically, why I put myself through so much shit for 3 years. I need a paper to at least prove to people that I haven't been wasting my time. You know, so if people are like, what are you doing for these 3 years? Okay, I got the paper, fine. I don't need to do anything anymore with that job. But the time when my degree was coming to an end, it was like right during my last clinical placement in a hospital.
And what year was that?
2019. Yeah, 2019. So in 2019, I was almost at the end of the degree. I was refereeing at the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam in London for one weekend. And I remember like I was sitting down at the end of the day after like a long day refereeing, and I was just looking online, I was sitting on my own eating like Nando's and just thinking like looking online, what can I do after this degree's finished? You know, like where am I going to go? Whatever. And I just saw a post from Francis he put online saying like he was asking for volunteer jiu-jitsu, MMA, Thai boxing coaches for his foundation in his home village for 1 year. They said like volunteer coaches needed for 1 year, whatever. I can't remember how it was worded. It was like 1 year placement or something like this. I don't know. And I was like, okay, well, this had always been a goal of mine also to open a jiu-jitsu gym in West Africa. We can go into this after because I don't want to sidetrack from the story. But basically, I'd done volunteer work before in Ghana and Tanzania, and I decided like, oh, one day when I get black belt, maybe I can open my own social project, you know. So then I saw this message from Francis asking for coaches for his gym in Cameroon. And I was like, I was like, okay, I had to check on the map. Like, where's Cameroon? Like, what language do they speak there? It's a French-speaking country. I was like, okay, I could maybe I could go there for 1 year, and probably I imagine that it would be like an MMA team that he was running that had fighters there already that just needed like a jiu-jitsu coach or like coaches to help them with specific disciplines to get them, you know, more skilled in stand-up and groundwork and whatever, you know, like I thought it was to help an established MMA team. So I was like, yeah, okay, this would be cool. I'll go train in Cameroon with some like monsters for a year, teach them jiu-jitsu, get some hard rolls in, you know, and then come back and reassess what I'm doing with my life, basically. And then maybe I can go back into physio. So in my mind, it was like a gap year, right? I'd have a break from physio for a year and then kind of think where to go next. But obviously it didn't end up that way because I've been there for 3.5 years now. So I never came back, basically. So what happened was basically I moved out there like straight away. As soon as my degree finished, I was like 2 weeks later, I was in Cameroon. And the first few months were very hard. You know, it was like
cultural shock, right?
The culture shock was kind of like interesting, like kind of like a positive thing for me. The culture shock was kind of like what made it a little bit exciting, right? Okay, it's like different world, you know, different culture, and it kind of, for me, I didn't find that part difficult, like eating what would be like strange food for like Western world, you know, different cuisine, different culture, everything. So he's making noise, like rustling some stuff in his pockets and stuff. Please. But yeah, that part of it wasn't difficult. What was difficult was that like there was no MMA team there. When I showed up, it was an empty gym with no students. Okay, so I had to build it from scratch. Basically, the first day, I was staying with a family there with Francis, aunt, and cousins. And the first day I went to the gym, I took the 3 kids from the house. So there are 4 kids that were staying in the house, like 2 8-year-olds and 2 10-year-olds, and grabbed like another guy that was doing that was trying to become an MMA fighter that had never done jiu-jitsu in his life, and said like, you know, like, help me, I'll show you guys some stuff, you can help me manage the kids, and just tried to do a kids class in a different language, you know, without anyone knowing anything about jiu-jitsu. And it was like, okay, this is going to be a long road, you know, like, it's going to be a difficult year kind of thing. So we started off like mostly like games, you know, playing games, trying to get them to understand a bit like positions, doing movements, and, you know, like very basic kids classes, you know, like beginner kids classes. And it started to take off a little bit. Like we started with 4 on the first day, then after a couple of weeks we had like 15 people. Like a month in, maybe we had like 30 people there. And so it started growing quite fast, like word of mouth, people started coming along, showing up, but it was still like, basically we were like 0 in terms of like skill level, you know, because nobody knows jiu-jitsu there. Nobody even knew what it was. I didn't have anyone to train with, like to show them, because it's like a dance basically between 2 people, right? You need a reaction from the other person for it to work. Otherwise you would just, you know, imagine you have like a room full of brand new people that have never seen jiu-jitsu, and you have to show them jiu-jitsu without a partner or an assistant. You know, you just got to grab someone that's never even seen what jiu-jitsu is and try to show jiu-jitsu on them. It's very difficult. You know, they don't have any reaction, they don't have any awareness of what you're trying to do, what they should be trying to do, you know. So it's a slow process, and you kind of got to you got to be very creative to think of ways to get them to understand what they should be doing. So it started off well in the first, let's say, 2 months, but then there were some days where no one would show up. I'd go to the gym, I'd sit there and wait, no one would show up. It was like raining all the time. I'd just go home again. And so I was like walking up to the gym, sit there and wait, no one there, walk back to the house. Same thing again next day, walk up to the gym. There's nothing else to do there, right? So it's a small village. There's no supermarkets, there's no restaurants, there's no entertainment, nothing to do at all. So apart from the gym, there's a couple places selling selling beer or basic stuff like bread and eggs. And that's really all there is there. So I started to get a bit discouraged, thinking like, man, I don't think this is going to work out, you know, like no one's even interested to come. Like training is free, no one wants to come. I can't understand anyone because they speak French there, and I couldn't speak French when I first moved out there. I was studying at the house like an hour or 2 a day, like with French books, but you know, people still couldn't understand me. I couldn't understand what they were saying. I was like, man, the accent and everything, it was just it was very difficult in the beginning. So I started to think like maybe this is not going to work out, and I don't see the point in staying here for a year, you know, because jiu-jitsu is not something that you can learn in 1 year. So I thought, like, because there was no other coaches there, it was just me. In terms of teaching jiu-jitsu or MMA, there was no MMA coach. There's a judo coach that was training once a week, sometimes. So he wouldn't show up sometimes. And there's a kickboxing coach that trains twice a week, which are both local coaches. Apart from that, I'm the only one teaching like full time there, you know. And I was thinking, man, like, what is the point to stay here for 1 year? Because what are we going to achieve? What are we going to achieve after 1 year? You know, like, it's such a slow start. Maybe like after 1 year, they'll be able to do some very, very like basic jiu-jitsu, you know, because they still have like such bad habits that I had to try to like train them to leave, you know, like, because there's no way for them to, they don't see that it's not a good technique, right? When it's working on everyone else. If you're trying to tell them, don't do this, but for them it works because there's no one good. No one could do jiu-jitsu. No one could expose them, you know, to show that it's not a good technique to use. So they're like, why not? It works on everyone. Like grabbing everyone in a headlock. Man, it took me like about 6 months to stop them to get headlocking people. So I was like, man, I don't think I can stay. I was like, I was thinking a lot because I don't like to quit, you know, like with the same way with my degree. I wasn't enjoying my degree by the end of it. In the last year, I was really like wanted to give up. I just persevered and stuck with it just because I was like, I've told everyone I'm going to do a degree. Now I need to finish it. I need to get the paper before I leave physiotherapy, basically. You know, I need to get this paper and do what I said I was going to do. I'm not willing to just give up in the middle of something, you know. So this was like, because I'm stubborn like that, is what kind of kept me there. Because I was thinking, man, I don't see the point, but I've said I'm going to come here for a year. And then I was like, okay, so if I'm going to stay here for a year, I was like, what can I achieve? I don't think it's going to be worthwhile. So I've got two choices. Basically, I can go home now, which is like, this was like 5 or 6 months after being there. I was like, I could go home now, or maybe I could stay here like permanently. I was like, what if I stay here permanently? Then it's like, maybe I could actually achieve something here, you know? It's not going to be easy because the living conditions there are not good. You know, we don't have running water. We don't have reliable electricity, basic stuff, supermarkets or whatever. There's nothing there, like I said. So it wouldn't be easy, but I was like, maybe I could achieve something like if I stay here long term, you know? And after things started to change a little bit when Scramble sent us out like a big shipment of gis, because in the beginning we didn't have any gis, so we were training just no gi. The kids were just training in their clothes, you know, for like 5 months. The kids were just wearing like shorts and t-shirt to the gym, so we just managed with that. And then Scramble sent us out like, they've sent us in total 100 custom gis for the kids. So they've like
incredible. Shout out to Scramble, dude.
Yeah, basically they're the ones that like saved this project, basically, because we had no other support. You know, the jiu-jitsu project was kind of just there as something for the kids to do and somewhere for them to go and have fun and learn some skills. It was never intended to be like a competitive jiu-jitsu program to build athletes and competitors, like to send kids to compete or anything like that. That's something which has kind of grown over time from them becoming passionate about jiu-jitsu, right? But Scramble helped that a lot when they sent all these brand new custom gis with Francis Ngannou Foundation on the sleeves, everything like this. You know, the kids kind of is motivational for them, you know, to have like all this nice new equipment to wear, nice new uniforms, and they were like, wow, like we can come wear this. We've got our own gis, you know, we're gonna like be like a professional team, basically, you know. So it kind of motivated them to, I guess, take training a little bit more seriously. Then
that was the turning point, would you say? The first turning point?
That was definitely a big turning point. When we got the gis from Scramble, everything started to change. The kids started to get like very interested in jiu-jitsu, you know. At that point we had loads of students, like there was maybe like 50 kids on the mat regularly, 40-50 kids. The biggest we ever had on like one day where we had a party, I think we had 70 kids on the mat. And this is just me alone with no assistant coaches and whatever, you know. I'm trying to arrange like food for everyone, training for everyone, like keep everyone's behavior in check, because the kids were getting a bit crazy, you know. There's 70 of them there, they're all like misbehaving and playing up, you know. And I'm like trying to manage all of them on my own. Like it's funny, like you don't realize until you come back here and you see like a kids class and you see how many assistant instructors they have, and it's like a certain number of kids per instructor, you know. And I was like, man, you guys have got it easy here. Like I was teaching 70 kids in a different language by myself, like with nobody to even help, like, you know, direct them, like go here, go here. I'm just like basically having a field day, like trying to arrange everything by myself there. So the first turning point was definitely the geese. It like inspired them a lot, I think. And then
what's the turning point, technically speaking, that you noticed like, oh, that's cool? Yeah, technically speaking, you sort of like, oh wow, okay.
There's a few. There's a lot of small ones, right? A lot of small technical changes, let's say, that happen like with their training. Like when they stopped headlocking each other and started getting underhook, they stopped grabbing their head and started getting their underhooks. And I'm like, okay, they understand now. Nice. That, you know, because in the beginning they will give that underhook, they'll grab the guy's head. I'm like, stop doing this, like block, you know, the guy's gonna take you back, stop. And it was so hard. They're like, yeah, okay. And then they do it again. I'm like, man, I told you like 100 times, please stop headlocking. And then, you know, when they start doing it, when I start seeing them do techniques and the way they move is like, you know, they like execute techniques perfectly, like inspiring. I was like, oh, okay, like they really get it. Like maybe I thought they didn't understand too well what I was teaching. And then I saw them sparring, they do like perfect technique, and I'd be like, wow, okay, maybe these guys can be really good, you know. Maybe they are listening to me, kind of thing. So it was tricky, even then, because it's like a slow process. But I would say in the last year and a half, it's been like they've been improving a lot technically, because now they're starting to push each other. They can actually have like, they start to have we've kind of filled in most of the big holes in their game. Of course, there's still holes here and there, but like before, it was big holes that everyone had. Like no one knew how to pass the half guard. No one knew how to do certain positions, you know. So we've kind of covered all the basic positions now, so that everyone's like competent. And now the sparring is like hard, you know. So even for me now, I can have a good role with them because they understand all the positions. In the beginning, they were making such simple mistakes with basic positions that we'd kept going over and over and over and over, trying to make sure that they stop doing the same mistakes. But then it was hard to show them like other positions. You know, you can't show like 50-50 guard, for example, a group of kids that are like not even able to open a closed guard. You know, they're not even able to open a closed guard. So it took them a long time to get to the point where they're like proficient in the basic positions. But now that they are proficient in those basic guards, let's say, now we started to do other guards, 50-50, you know, some lapel guards and lasso and all sorts of stuff. And now they understand. As soon as we start adding these more advanced positions, they started progressing much quicker because it kind of filled in all the missing links. I feel like then they could connect everything a lot easier.
And the great thing too about the program is that at first, like you said, they had no idea what is grappling. At least a new kid walks in a room, they see some kids doing stuff. Now they have an idea what they're doing. But before, I mean, I'm not even close to the scenario that you were, but as soon as I moved to the US, I lived for 2 years in Vegas, and I was teaching in a rec center twice a week. And I started a brand new program with like close to 30 kids that had no clue what jiu-jitsu was, but at least was English speaking, you know what I mean? Different year, like in a different language, like everything, you know. So I can imagine the challenge. And something else I was going to ask you to, and I would assume that probably your jiu-jitsu has evolved a lot just from like working with like brain, makes you think of different ways to teach, you know, not the common, you know, like people come in, like I said, there's some people who have an idea what jiu-jitsu is, you just presenting, and that makes your brain work like crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's many positions which I understand much better now just from teaching.
Exactly.
You know, that I used to use like a little bit when I was competing only. I used to teach a little bit, like coming up through as a competitor, but it was never my main focus. But now that it's my main focus as a coach, now I feel like there's many positions which have like developed it almost into like systems based on like how I see them learn, right? And the mistakes they make while learning, I will try to learn from their mistakes, you know, all the little things that kind of people do wrong. You kind of notice certain things when you teach that often people don't get the same part of the move, you know, they often make the same mistakes as each other. So I was like, okay, why? Is this something to do with the way I'm explaining, or is there like a fault in their technique, which is like I can make it better somewhere, you know? So when you start to notice, like, let's say 50% of the people, they make one mistake, which is the same mistake, it's like, okay, it will make you think and kind of analyze the position a lot more, and also analyze the way of teaching it, right? And you kind of, when you focus on those key points, which are like, let's say, common mistakes, you kind of develop and find new details to make it better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how is the acceptance in the community now with all these years later? Yeah, for like what the whole program
so now it's kind of, in the beginning it was like a novelty thing for the community, right? Like a new project of just teaching some weird sport that, you know, somewhere for the kids to go. Everyone was super interested. And now like our number of students has died down a lot over the past year and a half, let's say. But this has also been the time where the kids that are there now have progressed the most. So while the technical level has started to shoot up, the number of students is going down, because I think they realize now it's the ones that are still there are the ones which can really,
they're committed.
And they're also the ones that are putting the work in, you know? So now when other people, the ones that weren't putting the work in, that were just coming for fun, now they were there in the beginning because they were a similar level. Everyone was a similar level, and they didn't get, I wouldn't say beat up, but you know, they were able to handle themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they're able to do well in sparring, even if they're just there for fun. And now they see that the ones who are committed and that have been training really hard are playing with them, and you know, it's easy for them, even like if they're younger or smaller. So we've got like 13-year-old kid that maybe is beating up a 16-year-old. So the 16-year-old that wasn't coming very often, you know. So now he's like, it's not for me.
Kind of gets in their ego, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that interested, you know.
Yeah, in the beginning they were interested because no one could do anything to them, and they were like, cool, I'm learning submissions and, you know, how to do something. But as soon as the little kids start managing to control them and put them in bad positions and submit them, then they start to die off a little bit, the ones who are not putting the time in, you know. So now the ones who are there, they're very good, but we've got maybe about 15 that are like serious or relatively serious, you know. Some of them are young, so I can't say that they're really serious, but taking it seriously at the moment, that are training nearly every day.
Yeah, that's incredible, dude. In a few, I mean, it's been close to 4 years now. In a few years, with the culture that you're building, you're gonna have a very strong team that, and then little by little, to probably gonna have to split. I don't know if you already do, but have the beginners class, the competition team's gonna get, I don't know if it's in this phase yet or not.
Well, we tried this like in the beginning. This is something which is a bit unique to us, I guess, like as well. The way we do it at the moment is we have like one jiu-jitsu class a day. So I have like training in the daytime. Like if some of the guys are not in school, or if they finish school or whatever, we can train and do sparring in the daytime. But let's say there's one actual taught class per day, and that's all ages, from like 7 years old to like that, you know, whatever age people are, because everyone started roughly the same time. They basically need to learn the same basics. They need to learn the same principles and whatever. So And because the numbers are down now, it enables us to kind of put everyone in. We've got a big mat space. We can put everyone, I just put like the bigger guys, I split them into teams basically. So they're going to train with people their same age, but I'll teach them at the same time. You know, so I'll show them the same technique, the same positions, whatever. And the, you know, guys that are like 13 to 15 will train together. The guys that are like 12 and under will train together. And then the guys which are like over 16 will train together most of the time. Sometimes there's a crossover. You know, if there's not many people in one group, I'll merge them or whatever. But usually we teach on the same time. This is because I tried splitting it like this. If I split it into age groups or ability levels or whatever, we try to have a beginning class and advanced class. They all come to the same class. Like the younger kids, they just come with the other kids. They come whenever they like. They don't, it's not like in Europe or in US where parents bring the kids to the gym. You know, like for us, we're used to the parents driving the kids to the gym, drop them off or wait for them and watch the class. There, the kids walk to the gym together. You know, they'll walk alone. Like their parents don't come. So they'll just go wherever the other kids are going, you know? So if it's like a different level or a different age group or whatever, they'll just walk with the other kids that are going to the gym. So they all come at the same time, or they'll all come whatever time they can make it, basically, you know? So I was like, it was very like a headache to basically to try to get them to come in separate classes, everything like that. So I was like, okay, fine. Like I'm not wasting my time with that anymore. Everyone come at 4:30, you know, like we're gonna do the class at 4:30. So yeah, maybe
it's still a process. Yeah, it's a process.
We have like the way I've run it at the moment is that we have class at the same time every day. Apart from weekends, it's a different time. So we have like 4:30 on the weekdays, 3 o'clock on the weekends, and 3 out of 7 of those classes are like open to beginners. So we'll have 3 classes per week, which will only teach like basic stuff.
Gotcha.
So we can still, I still teach details and stuff for the advanced guys, but it's positions that will be understandable for a new guy. So like in those classes, we're not going to do 50-50 or lapel guard or, you know, whatever. We're going to do basic positions like back control, mount, side control, controlling, attacking, and defending those positions, you know, stuff like this. And maybe like close guard, half guard, you know, in those basic classes. But I try to always give the advanced guys new stuff, new details, new like insight to those positions so that they're not just coming and doing the same thing all the time. So they still learn and they still develop their game in those sessions as well. But in the other classes, I would basically, we have it just for the advanced guys, because what was happening was that people were showing up for their first time on classes which are like too advanced for them, right? And it's, they're getting discouraged. And it's not even the fact that it's hard for them. The problem is that it slows down everyone else, because then you have to stop everyone, explain the basic stuff, like how you can't be teaching a group of kids that are trying to progress, that are like, you know, gray or blue belts, yellow belts, whatever. And you've got like a guy that's never seen jiu-jitsu before, and he's coming, he doesn't even know how to, like, what's back control or anything, you know, you have to explain everything again to him. So it was kind of wasting the other kids' time. I said, like, guys, you need to be coming on these other 3 days in the week. These are your 3 days in the beginning. If you do well in those 3 classes for like a couple of months, until we can see that you've got a good understanding of general jiu-jitsu, you know, you understand the positions and what you're supposed to be trying to do in those positions, then you can come to all the other classes, you come to whichever class you like, you know. But in the beginning, like, you need to basically have permission to come to the advanced class, because if you're not good enough, you're going to hold everyone back. You don't need to be good, you know, you just need to have a basic understanding so that you don't need basic stuff explained to you while we're teaching advanced technique.
Now, let me ask you this. During all these years, you probably seen some transformations, especially talking about behavioral transformations. What is some, maybe one student that stands out that you notice that, I don't know, maybe they have anxiety and then has changed, your personality has improved. I know that you got to have a bunch of stories. Can you share with us maybe a story that kind of caught your attention and just for an improvement off the mats, you know?
Yeah, there's a bunch, like you said. There's so many examples, like from kids that had a complete like different behavior or attitude when they start training as to how they do now. Some of them, unfortunately, they don't train anymore. Some of these that come to mind, that they change so much. Unfortunately, they're not training anymore. Maybe they'll come back. You never know. They're just kids, right? So they can always come back. You don't need to force them to train and, you know, put pressure on them to train. So maybe it's like family issues or whatever. They can come back at some point. We're still there, you know. So, but there's one example of one kid that still trains, who actually lives with me as well. So I live with two of my students live with me, Frank, who's 17, and Brian, who's 15. And Brian is like a good example of like someone that is like a completely different person from when he started training, you know. He started, so he's 15 now, so he started training me like right in the beginning, I think the second day that I was there. So it would have been what, like 12, maybe 12 when he started training. And in the beginning, he didn't talk to anyone. He was like super antisocial, would like come, not talk to anyone, be like very like moody with people, you know, and get like lose his temper very easy, you know, and would like storm out of classes, go home in the middle of a class and stuff like this, just walk out, you know, which is it's understandable if you like understand his background, which I can go into a little bit after. But in the beginning, you know, he's just a new student and he's like you know, not very interested. He was just showing up, and it was as if someone like forced him to come to the gym. You know, he didn't seem like he wanted to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It was like as if someone said like, yeah, he has to go there, and it was like a punishment for him when he was there. Basically, it seemed like, anyway, from the outside perspective. From me as a coach, like I'm like, I don't think he's enjoying himself. You know, like he's always storming out, always like annoyed with other people and whatever. But now, like now he's completely changed. He's talking like normal. We can have like normal conversation with him, like laughing and joking, and you know, having a good time with him, which is something like I would never thought of like when he was a new student there, because it was so hard even to talk to him in the beginning. You know, he wouldn't open up to anyone or say anything. You know, so he lives with me now because basically his situation, him and Frank, they both have a similar situation. They're not related, but they have a similar background. So basically, both of them, their moms died as they were growing up. So for Brian, it was like, I think maybe like 6 years ago, something like that, a few years, or maybe a bit longer ago. So maybe when he was like 10. He used to live with his mom and dad in the capital city. His mom got unexpectedly ill, but they didn't know what was the problem. But then she passed away like a week after falling ill. Wow. So then his dad like was struggling to handle the situation, I think, from what I can understand, and sent him to live with an uncle. Like when his mom died, he didn't want to look after Brian anymore, so he sent him to live with an uncle. And I don't know, from talking to Brian, it seems like the uncle was not the most caring person, not the most, you know, interested in him or whatever. He said he hated living with his uncle. It was like a very hard time, and he was like a bit traumatized, I guess, by like imagine your mom died, no one explained to you what was wrong with her, why she died, you just get sent away straight away.
Wow.
So and then he lived with his uncle, I think, for 3 years in the city before his uncle decided to send him to live with his grandmother in the village. So, and he said that when he went to live with the grandmother, it was a bit better. Like he liked it more than living with his uncle. So it, you know, things got a little bit better, but this is like better than the worst case scenario, you know, like it was not going well at all for him. Things got a little bit better when he lived with his grandmother, but obviously it's still not the same as having his parents who grew up with, you know. So this is then like maybe, I think a year before I came to the village or something like this, maybe a year before we started the Jiu-Jitsu program. So then we start training. He was coming there. It's like he didn't have any friends in the beginning. He would just come in for something to do or like to keep busy, maybe. And then during this time that he's living with his grandmother there, there's other family problems going on. Like his aunt is moving in with the grandmother. His aunt starts bossing him around, acting like he's like a, you know, like a helper for the family, that he's not like part of the family. He's just there, like an imposter kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've sent it. So he didn't feel welcome at home with the family, you know. Many times, like after training, he'd come back to the house, because the house where I was living with Francis' aunt and cousins, they had kids there that are similar age to him. So he'd come to the house after, they'd all be like watching TV or whatever, and he'd go home in the evening. And like, let's say last year, not last year, so let's say that sometime in 2021, I remember talking to him, and I was like, oh, what did you eat last night? You know, and he's like, nothing, didn't eat anything. I was like, what do you mean? Like, did not give you something to eat at home? He was like, no, I just went straight to bed. So when he leaves my place in the evening, he'd go back and go straight to bed, and then come back and go to school in the morning, come to the gym, come to our house, don't eat anything, and go back and go to bed, you know, and don't even see the family that he was staying with. And then at one point, I noticed like he wasn't going to school anymore. So I went and spoke to his aunt there and asked her, you know, what's going on? Why is Brian not in school? She's like, oh, we don't have any money to send him to school. It's too expensive, because their school is not free. It's not very expensive to send a kid to school. It's like something like 40 or 50 pounds per year. So pounds, what are we talking about in dollars? I don't know what that converts to in dollars, but let's say like,
about,
yeah, maybe like 50, 60, $70 a year, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so she said they didn't have money to send him to school, and he was like one of my first students there. So I was like, okay, I'll find some money. I'll pay for his school fees for this year. You know, so I give his aunt the money to send him to school, but they didn't send him to school. They spent the money on beer or whatever else. I don't know.
Normal.
Yeah, they didn't send him to school. He was still going around. I said, like, what's going on? Like, have they not paid your school fees yet? And he was like, oh no, they said the money wasn't enough. You know, she had to use some of it to do whatever. I can't remember exactly the details now. This was a while ago. But either way, he didn't go to school, and he was still coming to our place every evening, like spending all the time with us, with me and a couple of other kids or other students, let's say, and going home at night time. So I was like, okay, look, right, I was like, you don't need to go home hungry and go to sleep like that. Like, as if you don't have anything to eat at home, just let me know, and I'll, you know, we'll sort you something out to eat. Like, just let me know. At that time, he was still not talking very much, you know. So when he realized that he could ask, I told him, like, it's okay to ask me, like, if you need something to eat, like, if you're hungry, if there's nothing to eat at home, just tell me, like, we'll find something to eat. So then he started open up, talking a little bit more. When I kind of give him permission to ask me stuff, then he started talking to me more often, like being a bit more open, started feeling more comfortable, say, like, a bit more open, you know. So then it got to a certain point, and he asked me if he could just stay at our place, you know. He's like, oh, can I not just stay here? Because it was him and Frank at the same time. They were like, can we not stay here? Why can't we stay here all the time, you know? Why do we have to go home at night, kind of thing? And I was like, well, I guess you can stay here, you know, like, if your family's okay with it, you can stay here. I'm okay with it. I was like, but I don't want to tell you to stay here. Like, this is something your family needs to agree with, you know. I was like, so if you guys want to speak to your aunt and see if they're okay for you to stay here, then for me, there's no problem, you know. So this is what ended up happening. They spoke to the aunt, you know, their aunts, the ones that were previously living with, and since then, so for the last year, they've both been living with me. But Brian is like a completely different person from when he started, when he didn't used to speak to anyone, didn't used to socialize with anyone. And now he can teach a class, yeah, to a high level. You know, he's like probably the best instructor that I have. He's only 15, but he's the best at teaching out of anyone, you know. So for someone that didn't even like to speak in front of people or whatever, now he could take a class. I can ask him to cover the class, and he'll teach like with very good like awareness of what's going on, a very good awareness of what's important in certain positions, and also how to teach to people, and you know, how to convey let's say convey something to a group of people, which is like a new skill for him. You know, someone that couldn't even talk one-on-one with someone is now able to speak calmly and
to a group.
Calmly and intelligently to a group of people, you know, and you can see when he teaches that he's very intelligent, you know. So I think from his upbringing, you know, he had a lot of traumatic situation, let's say, a lot of painful upbringing that led him to be like very close. And now that he feels like part of a team and that he has value, because his dad sent him away, right? He didn't want to take care of him anymore. He sent him away to live with with an uncle. The uncle sent him away to live with a grandmother. So he never felt valued. I don't think like he had any value for anyone. Now he knows. I ask him to teach the class. I tell him like he's a good, like super good. He's the best one to teach. So can he teach, please? Like, and he's like starting to feel like, okay, maybe I'm, you know, I can actually be good at something, and people do appreciate it, you know. So
that's incredible, dude. That's incredible. So let me tell you this. So what are some of the biggest challenges you have right now? How's the sustainability of the project? Because one of the things for people who are listening for the first time, Jiu-Jitsu Tribe focus in two things. One is mental health, using Jiu-Jitsu, spreading the message of using Jiu-Jitsu as a personal development tool, right? And one aspect is the mental health. So we do connections with behavior centers and Jiu-Jitsu schools to have some type of connection. And the other part is sustainability of projects that we have projects that were connected in Brazil that we work on construction, from getting mats to sustainability of paying coaches and so forth. Of course, there's thousands of projects in Brazil. There's so much you can do, but this year definitely stepping up in 2023 right now. We're stepping up, and I'm blessed to be in a position that I can focus more on my time. This is something that I've co-founded in 2010, but finally in a moment in my life that I can focus more on that aspect. Now, what are the biggest struggles that you have? There's so much that Francis can do, right? So what are the biggest struggles or necessity that the program itself, the foundation has?
Okay, so it's a complicated situation. Let's say, as I touched on before, like the goal for the foundation was never to have a competitive jiu-jitsu team. This is not part of like the vision that they had when setting up the program. You know, it wasn't like, okay, we want to build a competition, a jiu-jitsu competition team and send kids to compete. But so there's no funding, let's say, from the foundation side to send kids to compete in jiu-jitsu or to try to make a career in jiu-jitsu. You know what they have, let's say, supported the program in terms of giving us somewhere to train and providing time and space for a jiu-jitsu program and a coach. You know, they're the ones that sent me out there, you know, so they sent a coach to teach these kids jiu-jitsu, but it's only take us to a certain point, you know. So the foundation is the one that I've kind of started this program and allowed the kids to get a certain level of jiu-jitsu skill, but they're not going to be able to take the kids any further in terms of building a jiu-jitsu career. Right, so it's two different things. You need the skill. You need also the opportunity to compete and make a living from jiu-jitsu. You know, I'm not saying the kids need to make a living when they're young, but they need to be at least building their name as competitors or building the team name as competitors. You know, we need to try to grow the team because there's no jiu-jitsu in Cameroon and we can't do anything domestically. You know, so we need to basically, for this to progress, we need to basically find a way to fund the project to fund the competition team, let's say the jiu-jitsu competition team, and find a way that we can get them to travel internationally and compete and try to make a name for themselves.
Gotcha. Now as far as you, because one of the main things that we work on for the sustainability projects in Brazil is actually compensating the coach, because sometimes people think about everything else. Yes, we're going to support the team, or we're going to do this, but people sometimes forget, not sometimes, most of the time forget of the coach, that the person has a life too, and they deserve to be compensated. So do you have some support from the foundation? How you pay your bills?
Yeah, so basically I get enough from them to be able to pay living expenses in Cameroon. So I live with, I've got a family of 5 that I'm taking care of at the moment there. So I've got my wife and her 3-year-old son, and then I've got Frank and Brian, the 2 teenagers that live with me since before I was married, and also that I'm now trying to adopt them, right? So that's 5, and then the wife is also pregnant at the moment, so soon it'll be 6. So let's just say I get enough to pay for daily living expenses or monthly living expenses in Cameroon, but I don't get it. I'm not paid to such a level where I can save money or I can do anything with my money. Let's say I want to start thinking about opening my own gym in the UK or wherever. I've got nothing to work with in terms of finances, nothing at all. The money that I have in my account is enough to buy one flight, like one flight for one person, and that's it. Then I'm on zero, basically. So after 3.5 years, I have 0 savings. So yeah, it's a case of I need to find a way also to make enough money to do something after the foundation, let's say, because
Gotcha.
for a while I was intending to stay in Cameroon and teach, indefinitely, let's say, or I can't permanently, indefinitely, whatever way you want to look at it. But recently I think like it's becoming very hard to the lifestyle and the situation there is difficult to put up with long term. I've been there like almost 4 years at the moment, and it's getting harder and harder. It's not getting easier. In the beginning, because all the novelty factor and the stuff that's interesting in the beginning becomes very repetitive, and nothing changes. So
Yeah,
there's nothing to do, and it's not just nothing to do, but there's no progression.
gotcha.
Nothing is changing over time, which is really hard for someone who is not used to that kind of mentality. We're used to always trying to build the business, build the team, improve your skills, try and climb up the ladder, always trying to climb up the ladder and trying to make a better life, basically. But there, like, nothing is changing. So apart from that, the only thing that is changing is the technical level of the kids. It's getting better. The kids are improving in jiu-jitsu, but opportunities to compete are not coming. Opportunities to travel for them are not coming. And there's no way to make money. None of them make any money. We don't make any money at the foundation. It's a social project, so nobody pays for any training. Nobody gets paid anything there. So yeah, this is something which obviously we need to work on as well. Like you're saying, like the coach needs to be compensated. Yeah, because you can only accept working for free for a certain amount of time. I'm basically
Absolutely.
tired of doing everything for free, man. I'm tired. It's like it's getting difficult now. So I need to, not because I want to buy fancy stuff, but because we want to start our own gym. I want to take the kids to compete. I want to do all this stuff, and you can't do that if you're not earning any money.
Yeah,
you can't do anything. You can't progress your team and the kids' careers without having some sort of financial aid, let's say, whether it's from yourself or from somebody else. Like I can't help them myself, and there's no one else helping either. So it's very difficult at the moment. So basically, my goal at the moment is I don't, because of the situation, how difficult it is there, I don't see how I'll be able to stay there full time indefinitely. You know,
Gotcha.
we're going back there next month. But I would like to start thinking about how to open my own gym, you know, with the two boys that live with me, basically, the two, Brian and Frank. They're good coaches. Both of them can teach very well. Like,
you mean in UK?
Probably.
Yeah.
But this is all like just ideas and goals, let's say, because I don't have a plan, because I don't have any money to have a plan. You need to have the ability to execute the plan, right? I have zero ability to execute any plan right now. So it's just a case of ideas and goals. My goal is to try to find a way to open a gym in the UK with those two boys so that we can teach and make a living from jiu-jitsu together. And then hopefully if Francis is interested in still having me teach at the foundation, hopefully I'll be able to still be a part of the foundation and go back regularly to, you know, teach them, let's say, for a few times a year. You know, like 3 or 4 times a year, I could go back and still be involved with them, because I've been with those kids every day for 3.5 years, 7 days a week, you know. So it's not just the two that live with me that are like family, that even like many of the other kids are like family for me, you know, and they consider me like family as well. So it'd be very hard for me to leave the project, but sometimes you have to make a decision for
especially have your family and everything,
and for your own mental health, as you're saying, like there's only so long you can do things without taking yourself into account, you know.
Yep.
Because a certain point it becomes very exhausting, you know, when you're just helping people all the time and you don't ever think about yourself. At a certain point it's so difficult to sustain.
Yes, and there's the analogy that I always mention to people. There's a reason why when they get in a plane, they say, make sure you put the mask on you first, then we put everyone else, because you end up putting the mask on everyone else and then forget about you, and you end up, you know, passing out the other people surviving.
Yeah, you can't do anything. You can't help other people if you're not in a good condition to help them, you know.
Yeah.
You need to be. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is, so we're getting close to the end of the interview, and man, what an incredible work that you do, and just to be able to go through all those difficulties, to share this passion, to make a difference, it's incredible. For people who are listening to, we are starting a Jiu-Jitsu Tribe. We're starting a new program called Adopt a Social Project that's going to be worldwide, and we're going to have a page with all the projects that we are connected, and we do have different layers of how much people can donate and make a 12-month commitment with a social project. So the way we'll be doing is, it's not necessarily one person as a sponsor. It could be an academy, it could be an association, it could be a business, it could be a person, depends. But the idea is to have different layers from and then we're gonna have like the breakdown. We're gonna have on our website that we're redoing right now. Hopefully by the time this episode is being released, it's already there. So we'll have different layers that academies can support a social project as a team, because sometimes it can be tough for one person to put the money, but say like, hey guys, we're starting this partnership, let's do this as a team, that there is a jar that like every month everyone donates, say like, hey, there's a minimum that we give, and so everything doesn't have to rely on the academy, association, or the business, whoever. People come in, and whatever the difference is, if there is, the team go, the owner or whatever, the academy can go there and put a little extra to reach the amount. And with time, you know, give that 12 months of sustainability for the coach. And that is the number one, is like the coach being compensated. And yes, as the relationship evolves, the sponsors can maybe do a fundraiser to get a trip, you know, for one of the competitors or so forth. So this is the idea that you've been developing, and for sure we're going to be in contact, because I want to put you guys on this program, and could it be someone that is listening right now, or maybe by the time this episode is released, maybe you already have someone, because we have already, I've been already been talking with many instructors that want to be involved with this program, and that's something that it can help minimize, you know, the damage with you with some of the costs, and at the same time can prepare your transition, because at some point you're gonna have to go back to UK, sounds like, but at least you have someone that can take over, and even if they're a blue belt or whoever they are, but to be able to coach them so you can go a couple times a year and make that connection of, yeah, having your school in UK would be awesome, because there's a point that kids can go to travel and compete, and that would be incredible. And I believe that we can do something, Sam. I think we can, man, to get some extra support.
Well, this would be the idea, you know, like to open a gym in the UK is not just for like an escape route for me and a couple of the students, right? In the beginning, it would have to be only a couple, because you can't work miracles. Right? You can't dip like let's use French words, like you can't pick up a whole team and put them in a different country. You know?
Yeah.
Like good. If we had like a crazy sponsor that was like, okay, let's, you know, how to say, like rehome the team in the UK, no problem. I would love to do that. That would be like ideal situation. Bring all my students here in the UK, you know, and make a gym in the UK. This would be like perfect. I'd love to not have to leave any of them behind, you know, and take anyone who wanted to come to train in a new place, you know, like that would be the best situation. But it's highly unlikely. So we'd have to start with me and the two boys that I live with now to open a gym and start running classes and start making some money. And then once the gym or the team is established here, we could then try to link, try to have like a student exchange, you know, to bring some guys over from Cameroon to stay here. I could send guys, students that we've been developing here, back to Cameroon to train with those guys. And so have like an exchange program set up.
That's
this would
beautiful.
be like the goal, you know. I don't want to cut the opportunity for any of those kids that I've been teaching. You know, I want to keep as many doors open as possible for them and try to help them, even if I'm not there full time. My goal will always be to be working towards opening up opportunities for them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I intend to be like very, very involved with the project, even if I'm not there. You know, like I want to be managing the whole thing and make sure that they're still training to like a specific level. So I'll basically oversee the training from distance, and hopefully funds allowing, we'll go back numerous times per year, not just like twice, you know, like I need to be going back there like maybe like 4 times a year.
Gotcha.
Something like that. So
yes,
just so that they have like, just to stay close with them, you know, to stay close, to have that, to maintain that relationship that we have.
Right on. Man, we definitely, Jiu-Jitsu Tribe wants to partner up with the program, because that's what we do, you know, and it would be nice that, because most will have one program, as far as I know, in US, and we support them. Brazil have thousands, and then we basically, as I have a chance to go there and I visit the site and I visit the project. So I'm going to Brazil right now at the end of the month. I'm going to visit 4 of the projects that we support. 3 already being supporting, 1 is a new one, so we go there to actually visit, see how the programs are doing. And man, for sure we're going to be looking for doing something with you guys, for sure. And man, I want to give just Frank, congratulations for, man, your commitment. You know what I mean? Not for like, not because you won a medal. It's not about that. It's about your hard work and your commitment, because people can be talented, sure, but it's not what it really takes to another level. Is that commitment. Some people are, I learned from one of the speakers, Brian Tracy. He says something very interesting. Some people are interested in getting their goals. Some people are committed. There's a big difference. When you're interested, people do whatever's convenient. I was like, yeah, I do whenever I can because I'm interested. When you're committed, things change. Like you do whatever it takes to accomplish your goal. And you're doing that and having the support of Sam. So, man, congratulations, going out of your comfort zone, traveling, feeling all that emotional tension of competing. And that's cool that it went well. Even if you have lost all your matches, it doesn't matter. I still say congratulations, because it's not about, I don't congratulate necessarily people for winning. I give my first congratulations for choosing to challenge yourself. You don't have to do it. You are choosing to do so. So I congratulate people to be like, hey, congratulations for challenging yourself, dude. You didn't have to do it. Since you didn't want, congratulations for winning. Cool. But the most important thing that you are actually putting yourself out there. And sometimes many people everywhere in the world don't compete for many reasons. Many reasons. Could it be financial? Could it be injury? Could it be whatever? People don't have visas to go somewhere else. And there's some people that just compete because they are scared of losing. And they're afraid of, what if I don't win? I'm not even gonna get involved. So congratulations for your commitment, for your journey. You still have a lot to grow, and for sure you will make a living with jiu-jitsu one day if you keep listening to him and just doing your best. That's all. It's not about you have to win tournaments to make a living. No, 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 no. Don't think of that at all. You know, all you need to do is just keep your mind open, be respectful, humble, and work hard. And you will see, you're already seeing the difference in your life, what jiu-jitsu has brought to your life. But I feel that you will continue to see more and more as you dedicate to your journey. So hopefully you can maybe translate some parts of it to him, but things that you already tell him every day, basically.
Yeah, like I was saying to him the other day as well, like before the competition, like don't be afraid to lose. You know, like we said in the beginning, like people that care about you are still going to care about you.
Yeah.
You're going to lose. You know? So, and it's not going to kill your career like all in one. What's the most important is that you try your best to, you do your best, and that it's obvious that you're doing your best. You know, make it like clear that you're doing your best. Then everyone will support you no matter what. You know, if they see that you're someone that's putting the effort in and you're really trying, that's all that counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and man, I appreciate your guys' time, and Sam, you're an incredible soul, man. This is beautiful work. There's very few individuals that put their time the way you're dedicating your life, your mission to serve a community, to start something from literally scratch, like nothing, and sticking with this for all these years. So I don't know if people congratulate you often or not, or maybe just think that it's like, he's doing that thing. Like, no, it's very
I think
special
people,
what you're doing.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I think people think that I'm getting paid a lot of money maybe to be there because they're like, oh, surely, you know, you must be getting paid a lot. Man, I'm being a volunteer for, it's only when I said I get enough money to support my family there in Cameroon.